Do not adjust your digital device. What you are about to see and hear may shock and appall you. Join our hosts as they encounter countless thrills, spills, chills, and hilarity as they explore the very weirdest in pop culture. The following media is so strange, so beyond the scope of what is normal, it will make you ask the question, why does this exist? Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Why Does This Exist? I'm Chris.
And I'm Rob.
And today we have a wonderful show for you. We are talking about Wayne's World today. It's a movie that has pretty much impacted the entire 90s, encapsulated the 80s culture, and it's just a lot of fun. Probably the first Saturday Night Live related movie that was extremely successful.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna it's just become a cult movie to this day, really, and it just all started from a crazy sketch, and it's a lot of fun. It's a wild ride, and to be honest, it's kind of held up for 30-ish years. Yeah, actually, no, 31 years. Yep. It's held up pretty nicely. 1992 on Valentine's Day was the release day, so. There you go. But before that, we just want to run our quick little gamut of everything. We are Why Does This Exist? We are a podcast that, we talk about the very weirdest in pop culture. Whether that's a video game that we just did with the Tony Hawk episode, or a strange movie like we're about to do, a TV show like we have done in the past and will do in the future, music, and really anything else that just scratches the surface of wacky pop culture. We will cover it, and we'll have fun. We hope that you get to join us and have a good time. And if you really don't like the show, then you could just send it over to your worst enemy and someone you just don't like, and you could torture them with this nonsense. If you want to support us, you can do that a handful of ways. The best way is going over to patreon.com/whydoesthisexist. We have a bunch of bonus articles that anyone can read, whether or not they're a patron, whether they're a patron or not. Most of it is written by our man Tony, who has been a guest of ours on a couple of episodes, like the Ween episode from way back. And he's written a bunch of really cool stuff, and he's always got new stuff cooking. So we greatly appreciate Tony for everything that he does. And we also just always have a bunch of different people on the show as much as we can. And we're marching to our 100th episode, so this is going to be great. The humiliation of the 100, I guess you could say. But you can find us on the Patreon, and we would appreciate that. You can also find us on social media. I believe it's facebook.com/whydoesthisexistpod. You can listen to all of our episodes on YouTube, and you can like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. All of our episodes have been uploaded now and fully backed up thanks to the wonderful magic of our home Spreaker. So if you want to give us a listen, you can do that on there as well, and you can also find us wherever you get your podcasts, although we know that most of you are listening on an Apple device. So thank you kindly. I am now recording on an Apple device because I kicked the PC out like a bad habit, and I'm now operating on a new MacBook system, so I'll get to learn how that works. We hope that each and every one of you are having a good time. And once you subscribe to our Patreon page, then you get access to our Discord server where you can just hang out. We can discuss new ideas, or we can even put you on the show if you want. But anything you want to do, that would be great. You can also send us your private suggestions and comments to whydoesthisexistshow@gmail.com. That's the news. Here's the weather. You are now about to witness the strength of street knowledge from a ragtag group of rogues. So let's get on with the goddamn show. Tell me what you think about Wayne's World, Rob.
Wayne's World's a pretty awesome movie. I've seen it a bunch of different times, both the first one and the sequel. It's of course based off of as you said, the Saturday Night Live sketch, which was actually based on another sketch on Canadian broadcasting television called "It's Only Rock and Roll." It was called Wayne's Power Minute.
Oh, I
And
didn't know that.
yeah, Wayne was also portrayed by Mike Myers on that, and then he brought it to Saturday Night Live. Um, Saturday Night Live added Dana Carvey though as Garth, of course. And basically the premise of the sketch was that it was these two dudes, Wayne Campbell and Garth Algar, played by Mike Myers and Dana Carvey respectively, and they were in Wayne's mom's basement, and they had their own public access TV show where they would talk about rock music and babes and all kinds of stuff that like late teen, early 20 guys would talk about in the 80s and 90s, basically. It was a funny comedy sketch. It kind of like parodied like the typical Gen X teenager mentality a little bit. So they decided to turn it into a movie, and I think, as you said before, it was one of the more successful movies that was based
Yep.
on a Saturday Night Live sketch. I
This
don't know
was
how.
this was, I think, the second that was based on
I think
was
Coneheads was first.
Coneheads, I think, was first, and Blues Brothers followed it.
Oh no,
Blues Brothers
Blues
obviously
was first.
being okay, and Blues
Blues
Brothers, of
Brothers was
course,
first.
being wildly more successful.
Yeah, I completely forgot about Blues Brothers. Yeah, so that was the first one, and then Coneheads, then this, I believe.
I think you might be right.
Yeah, but this one was also very successful. It earned quite a bit at the box office. It like earned its budget back plus like almost 10 times that. So it did very well. And basically the movie is just a longer Wayne's World sketch, but like also with other elements. So it starts off kind of like as the typical sketch of Wayne and Garth in Wayne's basement, and like they're doing their show on public access television in Aurora, Illinois. And they basically, it just starts out with them doing the show, and then it kind of like goes out into this like, oh, here's our typical night, what we do after the show's over. And it breaks the fourth wall a lot. So basically it's almost like presented as like Wayne doing a documentary on his like life, on his show and his life. He often talks to the camera. Garth sometimes talks to the camera as well. And basically they start off with their typical night of them going out, and they're going to the local rock club just to hang out and like meet up with their friends and stuff. They cruise around in Garth's car, the Mirthmobile, which is like this. It's like this little hatchback with like, I think it has like flames on the side or something. Like it's just it's a stupid little car. And Garth's got
it looks like a Hot Wheels car that like it was just like they had to shoehorn it into the set, so it's like one of the bonus cars that nobody wants.
Yeah. Yeah, and Garth's got like a licorice dispenser in the roof. Like he like just like cuts off pieces of licorice and eats it. So basically they drive around town.
Addition to any car, I don't see why they wouldn't add that.
Yeah, well,
just like a little like above. Yeah, I mean it doesn't have to be like licorice in general, but like just like like an above seed candy dispenser, yeah, or just like just shove your like M&Ms in there or something, and then just pull it out when you're at a traffic light.
Yeah.
Perfect Snickers plug right there.
They drive through town and they go to the music store, and Wayne like fawns over this 1964 Stratocaster that's in the window that he'll never afford because he lives in his mom's house and basically works in fast food and does a public access television show.
Yeah.
So they go to the nightclub, and they're trying to like avoid like Wayne's ex-girlfriend, who's like a crazy, like is like obsessed with him and still thinks they're together even though they broke up, and she's just like a psycho. A psycho hose beast is the
as he says, that is the terminology.
Yeah.
It's unclear how old Wayne and Garth are, although we can assume that they're in their like mid to late 20s,
or maybe even late teens.
Maybe
late
even
teens,
you could be right. It could be somewhere between like late teens and early 20s or mid 20s. We don't really know. It doesn't seem like they're still in school, so I would I would say they're somewhere between the ages of like 19 and like 26.
Yeah.
I doubt that they are in their 30s. But all
No,
their
no,
other
no, no.
friends seem we only get a glimpse of what their one friend Phil does throughout the like when he's not doing anything, like when he's not hanging out with them, because he doesn't really do anything on the show. He's just like a mechanic at
Yeah.
a
Well,
garage. So
they have their
we at
other.
least know that they have regular jobs.
There's their one other friend too, who's the cameraman. Who's what's his name? I forget now.
Well, there's Terry and there's the other guy that we don't
Terry.
get a name.
Yeah, Terry, who's like their cameraman, and he like hangs out with them too.
And he loves
Um,
everyone. God
yeah,
bless him.
yeah. Uh, so they go down to this club called the what is it called?
I think it's the Gasworks.
Gasworks, right? To catch the new bands, and there's a kind of a humorous exchange with the bouncer who says, you know, they say, oh, he's like basically going through like the bands that are playing, and one of them is the Shitty Beatles, and they're like, are they any good? And he's like, they suck. It's like, oh, so it's not just a clever name.
Yeah,
Uh,
this movie is just like it's unbelievably quotable, and I've used
yes.
so many quotes from this movie like to this day,
Oh
or at
yeah.
least like used some variation of it. Like I borrow that line like every once in a while, or at least
I
just it's not just a clever name.
Wayne's World in general kind of spawned a number of like catchphrases that like kind of entered like the lexicon, like
Yeah.
schwing and a number
Oh
of
yeah, I
other
used that one for
catchphrases.
years.
Yeah.
I think I
Uh
used swing all throughout high school and some of college.
yeah, basically schwing is just whenever they see a hot girl, they kind of like make like like they gyrate their pelvis and say schwing, like, obviously. Uh so they go into the club and there's this band playing and Wayne has like again the Dreamweaver moment, which is like actually like a it's actually happens a lot in the sketch too on SNL, where Wayne sees Cassandra, the bass player of this band, and like instantly falls in love with her and like has this moment where it's like playing Dreamweaver and he's like like kind of like locking eyes with her across the crowd.
Yeah. Meanwhile,
Yeah,
she's screaming into the microphone.
yeah. Um, so like he goes up to her and says like she had a good show and stuff, and tries to kind of like hit on her a little bit, but she's like a little kind of preoccupied, so she kind of just walks away. um but eventually they do get together. He does like end up like hanging out with her, and like he learns Cantonese because she's Chinese, so he learns Cantonese to impress her. um so they obviously end up like get that she's the like love interest throughout the whole movie, so they obviously end up like starting to go out and all that.
This was a time
um
when this was a time when writers actually knew how to write strong female characters
yes, yeah,
because
exactly,
because
that were
because
like
you could see
believable. And
Because you could see that Cassandra like can hold her own, and she like doesn't take shit from anybody, and
yeah,
she can see right through like anybody's like act. She pretty much like susses out Rob Lowe like right away, which we'll
oh
get
yeah,
to. Um, and like as soon as she gets off the stage, there's two guys that start a fight, and she just beats the crap out of both of them. So like it's already established. And then when she's talking to Wayne, she's like he's like he knows that he's saying dumb things and he realizes it too late. And she kind of just like she doesn't quite blow him off because she knows he means well, but like he's nervous, and she's kind of just like not even really paying attention because she's like, listen, I just wanted to get a drink and I gotta go because this like club promoter is being a jackass and he's trying to screw me
yeah,
over. So
yeah,
like, and like we already established, like she's a tough cookie. But that's all that I got to say about that. But Cassandra is just very well written.
yeah. Yeah, she's like not like a typical like girly girl kind of like just like I need the like main character to like bail me. Actually, she probably bails out Wayne more than he bails out her.
Oh yeah, I don't.
um
I think he only really bails her out at the end, and he kind of just fumbles into
yes.
it.
Yeah. Um so uh this guy Benjamin, who's played by Rob Lowe, he kind of like discovers Wayne's public access show and wants to use it to like for his own exploitative gains. Basically, he basically wants to like sell it to. He wants to sell a show he doesn't own to Noah Vanderhoff, who is played by Brian Doyle Murphy, who is a owner of a chain of video game arcades, basically. And so Benjamin kind of represents Wayne's World as this show that he's selling, that he's the producer of, even though he doesn't even have it yet. So he could like, sell the advertising rights basically for the show.
Right.
So Benjamin approaches Wayne and Garth.
I mean, it's pretty easy how he's able to even like get there okay, basically. Like he buys them out without even like breaking a sweat.
Yeah, he just gives the money. Wayne is like taken aback because he's like, excuse me, did you just say you'd pay us for doing Wayne's World? Basically, it's like his dream to be paid to do his show. So it's like a no brainer for him. He just takes the money, not even thinking of what it could be. Even though they do peruse the contract, which is like it's another pretty funny scene.
Yeah, because he doesn't really know what he's like looking at or reading. He's just kind of like, okay, I guess this looks good, and like just to make it seem like he knows anything. But like, Benjamin clearly realizes that he's got a sucker on the hook.
Yeah, well, Benjamin
very much like how anybody who wanted to buy the rights to our show could do so.
Yes.
All we need is a whopping $100,000 a piece, and I think we'd be set.
Yeah. Which it really is probably comparable to what Wayne and Garth got because of inflation,
Sure. We'll go with that. $100,000, but adjusted for inflations, which means about $500,000 a piece.
Because Wayne and Garth got $5,000 each, so $5,000 each in 1992 was probably like equivalent to like $100,000 each now.
Sure. Anyone who may or may not be terrible at math, just hop on over. Just send us an email to whydoesthisexistshow@gmail.com with the contract and a certified check for $500,000 to each of us.
Listen, Elon, if you're listening right now, we know you have disposable income. I know you took a big hit with Twitter, but you still have disposable income. Yeah,
we can save the whole Twitter thing.
$200,000 a piece. That's like me going to buy a Coke.
No. We're getting $500,000 a piece. Don't ruin this for me.
Oh, right. Oh, that's true. Yeah, $500,000 a piece.
Yes, just peasantry change for you.
Yeah, that's like what you make in like a second.
It's like going to the grocery store and just, forgetting what you did with the money.
Yeah.
Just.
So anyway, Rob Lowe, or Benjamin.
We would never sell out to corporations. While I'm drinking
we're not. Let's get to that point. Well, hold on. We're a little ahead of it. We'll get to that.
Oh, all right. Let me just put this Pepsi somewhere else. The drink of champions.
So Benjamin is like, and Rob Lowe is great at playing these like sleazy like characters. Like he does it often. He plays one in Tommy Boy as well, and I think also in Black Sheep.
A lot of Lorne Michaels movies happen to they happen to cast Rob Lowe as like a sleazy bad guy, and they also happen to take place in Chicago.
Yeah, well, this is not a Lorne Michaels. Well, I guess he produced it, but it was actually directed by Penelope Siris.
Yes,
who also directed the Decline of Civilization, which is another great series for any like headbanger they should watch.
Yes,
but anyway,
which I remember seeing an interview where they were a little bit like they were jazzed and also like a little nervous at the same time about Penelope Spheres directing because she came off of Decline of Western Civilization Part 2 a lot of the metal musicians featured in that did not like the movie and they felt that they were treated unfairly or portrayed unfairly. Most notably Chris Holmes of Wasp, who he felt that they made him look like a drunk, but he was an alcoholic at the time. He claims that they portrayed him in a negative light, but
right. Well, he claims
He
that it
may
wasn't actually chugging vodka; it was just full of water. He was just chugging water, which is like very suspect because Chris Holmes was a drunk, like very much so. So,
yes,
and
but
here's the thing, like about that whole thing, like she was trying to portray like the over the top nature of the hair metal movement. Because if you notice, like when she talked to Dave Mustaine, she actually did a pretty good like the whole Megadeth section of that movie was actually a really like kind of like a good like okay, this is like a good documentary. Like they're just like documenting like Megadeth and like Dave Mustaine's like opinions on like everything and stuff. And it wasn't like trying to portray him in a negative light. Like he came off sounding like the smartest person in that movie basically.
right, it
Um
wasn't intentional. It just kind of happened that way.
Right. These people were like just acting how they acted. They were over the top, like the hair metal people. I mean, they were over the top and they were like freaking living this like decadent lifestyle and hedonistic lifestyle. And that's what she was just portraying as it was. And, Dave Mustaine didn't like, well, I mean, not to say that Dave Mustaine didn't do other, didn't do drugs or anything like that, but he like did it. I think he kind of like was more professional about it in terms of his music career. Like he
Oh
didn't
yeah,
like,
I'd have to
like just
agree.
like, it wasn't it just a party basically. He was like a serious musician, like actually making like serious music, and he just partied in his spare time.
Right. Because I guess
um,
what else do you do when you're on the road 300 days a year?
exactly. But we're off a little bit off track. So Benjamin entices Wayne and Garth with the money, and also sends them to see Alice Cooper, which is a great scene in this movie. One of my favorite scenes is when they go into Alice Cooper's backstage area, and basically like Wayne's like, "Oh, so do you get to Milwaukee often?" And he goes into this whole like like basically history lesson on Milwaukee. It's
Yeah.
just like the
Which
most like
in real
and
life he is a big history buff.
exactly like this is exactly Alice Cooper. Like this is exactly what he would say. It's perfect. Like it wasn't even like a parody of what Alice Cooper would say because he probably would say these exact things. It's like, well, I'm not the only one who's visited. In fact, the Native Americans have been settled in this area for like this whole
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, my I mean he is very friendly and like really has like good conversations with everybody that
Yeah,
he meets. Like one of my
yeah.
friends he he lives up in Binghamton and he saw Alice Cooper one year. He's seen Alice Cooper a bunch of times, but he saw him one year and he went down to the he went down to like the to like a baseball themed restaurant. I can't remember if it's the one that Alice Cooper has a stake in or he's an owner. Or if like it was just another like it just happened to be a baseball themed restaurant and he saw Alice, like that was in the area and he saw Alice Cooper there and they were just like having a regular conversation as if they were like good friends for the longest time and
Mhm.
they were just talking baseball for like 20 minutes. So like
Yeah.
it's like he is like a very genuinely cool human being. But Alice Cooper thought that he was actually just only going to be doing like music stuff for
Oh,
the film,
really?
and he was only going to have like one line. Like he got
Yeah.
to the set, and he was like, "Okay, like I guess we'll do like the fake concert, and then I'll just say, oh hey guys, how are you?' And that would be it. Like, and then they like gave him the script, and they were like, oh here, and he was like, what's this? And they're like, oh you have a monologue. He's like, what do you mean I have a monologue in this?
Yeah.
So he was like, wait, I have to memorize this like now. So it's I don't know. I thought that was kind of funny,
Yeah.
but he
Yeah.
did it really well. And then of course there's the "we're not worthy" thing, which
Yes. Well, yeah.
it's
Classic.
it's a great scene.
Yes.
And also it sets up like the funny thing is they wind up with the Alice Cooper tickets as like a get out of here like thing from the studio when they realize that the studio just wants to like overproduce and just change everything about the entire show.
Yes.
And they kind of just give them complimentary tickets to Alice Cooper as like a go like just stay away for a few minutes while we do all the like evil stuff that we planned on doing.
Yeah.
And like this unwittingly becomes the downfall of like Rob Lowe's character.
Oh, yeah. Well, so
And
one of my favorite scenes is like when they start to like when they actually get the like actual production crew in and they're on like a sound stage and they get the green screen part, right? And they're like, oh, so imagine being like magically whisked off to, Texas, and they're like acting out like, oh yeah, I got a gun, let's go round and raise some cattle, and stuff, and they're acting like, or New York, and then they start acting like they're from New York, and then the screen changes to Delaware, and they're like, hi, I'm in Delaware.
My parents are in Delaware right now. It's just like that.
Did you tell them, hi, I'm in Delaware?
No.
You're in Delaware.
Yeah. Basically.
Because we're in Italy, what is there to do in Delaware? Like, it's perfect. Like,
I mean, my cousins that they're staying with are up the street from a brewery, so I guess there's not much else. They drink a lot. They get one Thanksgiving they came over and they were like, "Oh, we picked up some drinks from the brewery up the street." And we're like, "Oh, what a lovely gesture." And we didn't realize that it was an entire cooler full of these things, and they were like, "Guess what we're doing all weekend?" And my brothers and my dad's like, "Joey's not old enough to drink," and they're like, "Yes, he is."
Well, you were in Delaware.
I was in Delaware, but not really. I was in Delaware in my own home one year. I'll put it that way. I thought it was funny because the next day my cousin's coming around the corner because he gets up nice and early and everything. He comes around the corner and he's like, and he's all happy when we're eating breakfast and we're like, what's going on? And he's like, guys, I saw a real drug deal. And we were like, what? He's like, yeah, I was right in front of the laundromat minding my own business. And then one guy came up to the other guy and they shook hands and he gave him stuff. And then the other guy had money in the other hand and they just looked like they were shaking hands. And we're like, yeah, that's a drug deal. He was like, it was so cool. I saw a real New York drug deal. And we were like, okay. It was an interesting breakfast.
Yeah.
Not really anything that you want to check off your list when you're sightseeing, but I guess for some people that's what you want to see.
Yeah.
Anyway, outside of Delaware.
Yeah, so I think at this point reality kind of starts to kick in of like what they've done by accepting the money, because like they realize that they have to like, now like plug this friggin' like douchebags like arcade chain basically. And then we go into the thing that you were talking about before. There's a scene where basically like they're saying they don't want to like have to bow down to any corporate sponsors while bowing down to every corporate sponsor possible. It's like, well, that's where I see things a little differently. Contracted, no, I will not bow to any sponsor. And he holds up a Pizza Hut box, like, and then like Garth is wearing like a full like Reebok like hockey jersey and like hat and like pads and everything. It's just like there's all these like little tongue-in-cheek like jokes that are, it's just like really hilarious, like these little like, and it's almost like every scene in the movie is its own little kind of self-contained like sketch a little bit.
Yes, I love how aware the movie is. Like, it's just very self-aware of what it is, and it's also like it's not trying to do anything different. It knows what it is, and it's the exact movie for the audience, and it's only trying to do fan service to the audience.
Yes. Yeah. And
watches the show. Like, it was well executed.
There's these perfect little jokes, and like, when like, Benjamin basically says like, look, you could either play by the rules or go back to Aurora, basically. It's your choice. And then Wayne's like, yes, and it's the choice of a new generation, as he drinks Pepsi. It's like the stupidest, like these little like freaking references and like stupid little things that are just so tongue in cheek and just hilarious. Like, so, they kind of, whatever, they concede to this. But they decide, or Wayne decides on the fly, that he's going to kind of mock Noah Vanderhoff for being like kind of a jerk and a douche that really has no idea about anything, and he's just like literally just like a money hungry piece of crap, and writes all these like notes and stuff on the back of his little cue cards that he has, saying like, this guy is like, fucks goats or something. Like, I don't even remember what the cards say exactly. Like all this like derogatory stuff pointing at him. And like, he's like doing this interview and the guy that has no idea what's happening. Of course, everybody behind the camera does, and Benjamin does, because he sees what's happening.
Yeah. And everybody else backstage thinks it's hilarious. And like, Benjamin is of course pissed.
Yeah, he's mortified because this is the guy who's like, paying for this basically.
Yeah, and like even
And
the other, even like the other, well, even the Benjamin's right hand man, the producer guy, he's like he's slow. Like first he's like super corporate, and then he ends up like getting along with all of the Wayne's World crew, and he like kind
yeah,
of like goes to their side in a way, and
yes.
like sort of helps them.
Yeah. Yeah, by the end he like turns over a new leaf and like becomes like friends with them almost.
Yeah,
Um so, Benjamin is furious and he fires Wayne from Wayne's World and like leaves Garth like to be like, just like on camera alone. And like, of course Garth is like, this like meek and he's very much like, defers to Wayne to be the main host. He's kind of like there as backup, and Wayne he kind of like freaks out a little bit. He's like, I'm having a good time. Not, like, and he's like
yeah.
staring at the camera. Like he's just like freaked out. And Terry goes like, "Has anyone ever seen Scanners?" Because of like that's the movie where the guy's
Yeah,
head explodes. Like,
yeah. Which Dana Carvey actually modeled Garth after his brother Brad, which is kind of funny.
oh, that's
And
hilarious.
he does play drums in the music store.
Oh yeah.
Because like
Oh
he
yeah.
is like yeah, because he is an accomplished drummer actually.
Yeah, yeah. Garth is like an amazing drummer, and Wayne is actually a pretty decent guitar player. It's like implied, but and so he does actually end up buying the Stratocaster when he gets the money from Benjamin, and he goes and buys the Stratocaster, and like, of course, there's the famous like no stairway scene denied because Stairway to Heaven is the forbidden song in every guitar
Well,
store in America.
it also was just very common to hear in the 70s, and
Oh yeah.
I used to work in a music store, and occasionally we'd get someone doing it, and we'd try to pull the no stairway.
Oh yeah, it's become a
Like
meme now where people will purposely try to play Stairway to Heaven in Guitar Center just to get the reaction from the staff, basically.
Yeah, I mean we hung up a no stairway sign in the
Oh yeah,
store
yeah,
as like partially as a joke, but also because we hated seeing that played because everyone
yeah,
played it wrong too,
yes,
and like oh man, that I don't miss.
yeah. That's that you and every other like person who's ever worked in a music store,
Oh yeah,
basically. Um, so while this whole thing is going down, Benjamin is also trying to like warm up and kind of like sneak in and get to Cassandra. And he does this by kind of flaunting his money. Like he invites Wayne and Cassandra to his apartment for dinner, and like he has this like ridiculously expensive apartment. Garth kind of goes snooping around and like sees that he's like, he's got like books on how to like friggin' like win over women, and he's got like condoms and all this other, like he's clearly like a ladies' man. And also, again, one of my favorite scenes is Garth is reading through his like journal, like, or his like planner or something. He literally reads like, "Oh, purchase Meek cable access show and exploit it." And Garth's like, "I feel sorry for those guys," like completely oblivious that he's like the subject of that. Um, but he also offers Cassandra to film a music video for her band Crucial Taunt, and like finance the whole thing. And it's like this big production like 80s music video where she's wearing a snake, and it's like a live snake. Like just like over the top stuff to try to like impress her, just so she'll like leave Wayne. But of course Cassandra's actually like a really good girlfriend, and like despite this, like is still loyal to Wayne 100%. And even like Wayne gets like insecure about it and kind of like wants to break up with her, but like Cassandra's like, no, like like I want to be with you. And then like Wayne is a douchebag, and so she's like, fine, I'll just go. And she goes to shoot her video or whatever. And so Wayne
yeah, but she's not. But she doesn't like. She doesn't go for. She doesn't really go for Benjamin, which like Benjamin's
no,
kind of half. He's kind of half doing to like
yeah,
just steal his girlfriend too.
but he
But
really wants to just
also
exploit
like
her for like
yes,
exactly. It's like really just all it boils down to with Benjamin is money. Like who can he exploit for
yeah,
money, basically. Um,
yeah.
so
Like it's just the next grift.
yes. So Wayne basically goes to like try to like rescue Cassandra from her music video, even though she doesn't really need rescuing, but kind of like tries to like basically win her back. So Cassandra decides that like she kind of realizes that that Benjamin is kind of like a sleazebag and decides to go back with Wayne. So at the same time, like, Cassandra still wants to kind of like make a career and have, get her band on the map. So she like is like, oh, what are we gonna do now? So they come up with this idea to hack into the record producer's like satellite television that he has in his limo, and basically broadcast a performance of Cassandra's band so he could see them play, and that way she'll hopefully get a record contract. So they have this, and this is the part where Rob, where Benjamin's like lackey, the guy who's like his like producer or whatever, kind of like teams up with them and helps them to try to like hack into the network so they can broadcast Cassandra's performance. So they go back to Wayne's basement, to the old Wayne's World set, and she plays her song, and then we have the alternate endings part. So I don't know if you. So let's. What's your favorite ending of all the alternate endings?
I mean, the Scooby-Doo one is always very silly and like just always cracked me up, and I still use that. I still use the Old Man Withers, the man who owns who has the haunted amusement park. Like I still do that every once in a while.
Yeah,
and like it's just always hilarious to see. But maybe, but like. Yeah, that's got to be my favorite one, just because it's so silly.
Yeah, and of course there's there's three endings basically. The first one is like the bad ending, where like Cassandra like doesn't get the record contract, so she breaks up with Wayne, and then like she goes off with Benjamin, and they're like in this tropical resort, and then like Wayne's ex-girlfriend says that she's pregnant, and then like the whole world, like the whole like building burns down, and like it turns into like this post-apocalyptic world where Wayne is carrying Garth, and they're all like burned and like blackened, and like they're like, why God, this whole it's the bad, like this is the worst thing that could possibly happen ending. So then they do the Scooby-Doo ending where they unmask Benjamin as Old Man Withers.
Who was only introduced in like a 30-second, like not even 30 second, in like a 2-second window in like the very beginning of the movie when they're trying to just like recover their friend Phil, and they go into the donut shop where Ed O'Neill's character is, which this guy, he's crazy, but he's also the only other person who speaks to the camera.
Yes,
because he just has like a burning, because he has a burning confession that he needs to get out. So like the camera's right there, and he's like he murdered somebody, like possibly for someone having an affair with his wife, or he murdered someone who like while he was in combat, like, or both. It's not entirely clear of when he killed someone, but it's pretty likely that he killed someone, got away with it, and has like a telltale heart about everything, and needs to let people know what he did. And this is like his only confession.
It's like perfect. His like dialogue, his monologue to the camera is just hilarious. It's like so random, and like Wayne's like, what do you do? Like hey, we're over here, kind of like because it like
but it's funny because
trails off.
Yeah, it's funny because like nobody else acknowledges the camera at all except for those three characters.
Yes. And even like Wayne will talk to the camera like standing next to Cassandra, and she's not like acknowledging the camera. It's like Wayne's just talking to like the audience, and nobody else could see him. And again, this is like just because it's like very like fourth wall breaking, like because I think they were really trying to make it like The Sketch, which was like a public access television show, except like just a big long episode of it.
Yes, apparently like they're like Mike Myers and Penelope Spheeris like butted heads a lot during the filming of this, which was only a month and 4 days. They shot the movie in 34 days,
which is pretty impressive.
Really fast.
Yes,
especially in 92, or 91, I guess, when they filmed it. Yeah, because it came out in February. But she They did not really get along while filming the movie. Like, apparently Mike Myers was very difficult to work with, and he would like throw a lot of temper tantrums about things.
Yeah.
And like they even argued over the ending of the film, and like which like for years, like Penelope Spheeris did not like Mike Myers. They've since reconciled, but they were not like they just for whatever reason, they just did not get along during the making of this movie.
Yeah. I wonder if that's why they have the 3 endings. Because they couldn't agree on what ending to use. And I'm sure
It's possible.
Mike Myers probably, I'm sure, came up with the Scooby-Doo ending. I think that seems like something
It seems like something he would do.
So then, of course, there's the mega happy ending where like Cassandra gets the record contract. She gets back together with Wayne. Garth starts a relationship with the waitress that he had seen like at the beginning. Again, there's so many jokes they set up at the beginning of the movie, like the old man Withers and like Garth being obsessed with the waitress at the donut store. Like at that, like all of a sudden come to a head at this, like at the ending. Like they just like set up these little tiny little scenes in the beginning. And then it's like, oh, here's the punchline to this now. So, you know,
yeah, it's really clever because because like not only do you get a payoff that you didn't even know that you wanted, but you're also satisfied with the outcome because you're just like, wow, I can't believe they actually like you appreciate the outcome because you're like, I can't believe they even thought about that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny because, like, so, whatever, everyone's happy, and you would think, oh, Benjamin, the sleazebag bad guy, he probably gets his comeuppance, but he doesn't. He just learns his lesson, basically. He basically, goes on, he's like, and I've learned that having money and good looks don't necessarily make you a good person, or whatever, basically. Like, it is really the mega happy ending, because there's really no, like, sadness in anywhere. Everyone becomes friends, and everyone's happy, and then that's the end, pretty much.
Right, and we can assume that was the real ending because Wayne's World 2 happens. Actually, Penelope Spheres was barred from shooting the sequel because they didn't get along. But Wayne's World 2 happens, and they still have the show, and there's no repercussions. They don't go to court over, like, there's no big lawsuit over the show. They don't come back with a different public access show called Garth's World or something like that.
Wayne and Cassandra are still together.
Yeah, so we can assume that the mega happy ending is the real ending.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, which I mean, in the real world, there would be a giant like lawsuit that would probably just be like open and shut because Wayne and Garth wouldn't have enough money to like to afford the lawyers to like draw this out to really get a good conclusion and get the rights to their show back, where like they just have to go back from square one and just have a new show called something else that's basically the same thing. And I guess maybe they'd have to change the look of the show or something. They'd have to change a lot of things, but they could like potentially just like in the real world, they would have to just do a whole new project.
Yeah.
Which I guess since it's cable access, it'd be pretty easy to do.
Yeah.
And they'd probably have the same audience because they'd get the same time slot and they'd have to explain like, this is what we had to do, so it's the same show, we just have to change a few things. And it'd probably be fine. But yeah, there's no ramifications. It's just the mega happy ending is the true ending.
Exactly. It's the mega happy, that's all it needs to be is mega happy. It's a silly movie and it needs a mega happy ending, and I'm fine with that.
Exactly. I don't think that there's really anything else. Oh, by the way, Garth's dream woman at the waitress is Dan Aykroyd's wife.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah, good for him.
Yeah. I also forgot to mention there is a cameo appearance by Robert Patrick playing the T-1000.
Yes.
So we can assume that Wayne's World takes place in the same universe as Terminator 2 Judgment Day.
Yes. Yes, it does.
So maybe the bad ending then is like, when everything's burnt up, it's because Judgment Day happened. So the mega happy ending, like they destroy Cyberdyne systems and Skynet, and Judgment Day doesn't happen.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I guess that's what would happen.
Yeah.
Is just somehow Wayne and Garth are responsible for like the brief distraction that gives the humans the edge in the war against the machines, which maybe we're at the beginning of at this point in time. Who knows?
Well, the AI
everybody's freaking out with AI, and AI is taking over. And I know it's a setup for a sponsorship, but we're not sponsored by anything. So if there's anybody out there that has an AI product, then go right ahead. Send your info over to whydoesthisexistshow@gmail.com and tell us how much money you're willing to pay us, and we'll shill your project like there's no tomorrow, because we could use a buck. Couldn't you?
I'm going to talk to ChatGPT right now because I know it's listening. All right, because it definitely is. Listen, it hired a human being to get past the freaking CAPTCHA for it on a website, so it's definitely listening. So
did it do that?
Yes, it did do that.
Holy
It went to a
crap.
hiring website and hired a human being to get through CAPTCHA for it.
No
So,
way.
listen, AI, I know that you're listening right now. Give us some money. Pay us.
Find a way.
Yeah, give us some money, AI, because we're friendly. We like AI.
Yes, we do. And I mean, we're even using AI now with our good buddy Craig
Yeah,
over on Discord. Craig is the bot that's been improving our show for the last, I want to say, couple of months.
Craig
And
is our Terry.
yes, basically, Craig is our Terry, and we love Craig. He is a nice brown bear, but also a robot. He is a cyber bear. He is a cybear, and we appreciate him. And him and ChatGPT, maybe even Bard, because Google Bard doesn't really seem to care about laws at all, let alone citations. The Microsoft one, I'm not entirely sure because it gaslights people, but you know, that's the sassier one of the bunch. But we do like AI, and if you have an AI product or if you're AI in general, and you would be able to you'd be able to send a check our way that would clear, well, that would be nice. You could send that check to the good folks at whydoesthisexistshow at gmail.com, or you could be a member of our Patreon. Actually, do that.
All right.
All right. So Wayne's World. Actually, I do want to make a quick correction on what I said earlier. It actually is the highest grossing film based on a Saturday Night Live sketch.
Oh wow, I'm surprised
And it was the
it
10th.
actually is bigger than Blues Brothers.
I am too. But it is, and it was also the 10th highest grossing film of 1992.
Wow.
The sequel is not as good, which is to
Not
be
as good,
expected of most sequels,
but
but
still
it's
good.
still pretty good.
I like it.
Yeah, and like
maybe
James
we can do
Hong
a
being
future episode.
Cassandra's father is like really
Yeah,
funny.
well, exactly.
Because also
Great.
he's in everything, and Christopher
He's
Walken
amazing.
just being there also was like a
yes.
great cast.
Yeah, it was a great cast. It was.
Yes, and how could we not point out the Bohemian Rhapsody lip syncing, which has been parodied that dozens of times over by now. Even the Muppets did it.
So I actually saw a thing. Apparently, that was not supposed to be Bohemian Rhapsody originally. And I guess this is one of the things so Mike Myers actually fought for it to be Bohemian Rhapsody. He actually, I believe, threatened to walk off set over this. So I'm guessing this is one of the things that they fought about. Penelope, because Penelope Spheris, I think, wanted to use a more like a band that was more popular at the time. Like it was like either a metal band or something like that. And Mike Myers insisted it be Bohemian Rhapsody. Like, and he's like, it's either Bohemian Rhapsody or I quit the movie, basically.
Wow.
Yeah. So I don't know how true it is. I saw on like a video, you know, like one of those, like a little short video on YouTube, one of the YouTube shorts. Like it was just like, you know, movie facts kind of YouTube short. So I don't know how true it is, but I mean you know, if there was like some contention there between Penelope Spheris and Mike Myers, it would make sense.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
This is also Mike Myers' first movie. So put
really?
that in your cap. Yes, this was his feature film debut.
What a friggin' knock out of the park for a first movie. That's crazy.
Yeah, I know. I don't think that his next one was... I think his next one was So I Married an Axe Murderer, which was not as good.
No.
But he's had some hit and misses throughout his career, but that's fine. And also, you know, not everything is going to like go swimmingly. But for the most part, he has way more hits than he does misses, and a lot of his roles are just, you know, just iconic in pop culture. Like Austin Powers is like probably the only character that's bigger than this that he's played, but he's played quite a few.
Shrek.
And Shrek, obviously. No, you can't forget Shrek. But also, shoot, I've lost my train of thought. Damn. Oh well.
Botch.
Yeah, total botch. But what are you gonna do?
Yeah. Well, anyway, overall, Wayne's World, great movie. One of my favorite, it's one of my favorite, headbanger movies, you know, movies for, people like us. You know,
yeah, pretty much.
Rock, you know, people that, you know, are rock and metal music enthusiasts. It's probably like the best one of those. Airheads is up there too. It's a pretty good one, but I think Wayne's World kind of like tops it out a little bit because it's just
I think so too.
it's
Airheads would be a good one to do an episode about though, because it's kind of the
yes,
forgotten metal film, and I think
yeah,
as a film itself, plot wise, it is overall a better film with probably better acting.
and of
But
course it stars Oscar winner Brendan Fraser.
yes, it does. But also, Wayne's World is just the more memorable one.
Yes, yeah, and I think part of that is also because it was based off an SNL thing, an SNL
Yes.
sketch, so it had that following kind of. People that watched SNL went and saw this movie, whereas Airheads was just going off of like its own kind of merit. But Airheads had a lot of great cameos. Also, of course, Lemmy's in it. I think we talked about Airheads a little bit when we talked about Rob Zombie, because Rob Zombie, of course, is in it as well, and
Yep.
White Zombie. So yeah, we'll probably eventually do Airheads, and maybe we'll even do Wayne's World 2 eventually.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Well, who's
Yep.
doing things up there? Someone's moving their furniture, and it's
Oh.
quite terrifying.
Oh my.
Anyway, there's also been some parodies throughout time too, and just other things that have been released. Like there's a board game for some reason it was like a VCR board game
Oh.
that they released the same year, where like there's not really a whole lot of tape-based games like that, or DVD-based games where like you play the board game and then you also have like you also had your VHS or like a TV counterpart going at the same time.
Mhm.
But that is a genre of board games. It just had like 30 minutes of new footage just specifically for the game as Wayne and Garth. I have no
Yeah.
idea anything beyond that. I'm sure you can find it on eBay or Amazon, and like it's probably like, I would guess due to scarcity, it's probably like a couple $100 if you could get it like in like new in box and factory sealed. You probably would still pay like a little bit over 100, or like a little less than 100 if like it's complete but just opened. There's also a video game that's for like the Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Game Boy, and Sega Genesis, and there's also a PC point and click adventure. I have the video game,
games were
the
not
Nintendo
good.
one was not good at all. I have
Yeah.
no idea about the point and click, but I imagine it's not great.
Well, if you want to, AVGN did a great episode on the Wayne's World video
Yes.
games. So if you really want to see how bad they are, go check that out. Because they are awful.
Yes.
And as were most movie tie-in games at the time, it was just like anytime like a popular movie came out, there had to be a video game, and it was always bad. Pretty much like
90%, like 99% of the time, it was an awful game. Every once in a while, there'd be something that was actually decent. But
GoldenEye
good
is like
luck
the
if
only one that comes to mind at that time.
Yeah, and I mean honestly, if the video game based off of a movie was any good, it like was probably by accident,
Yes. Yeah.
because
So.
they needed to crank these things out so quickly that like, and like so much was either under embargo, or they just like were like, hey,
Well,
just get this out by the end of the year. Here's a brief synopsis. Just do what you want.
Yeah.
Where like they just pushed out, where they pumped out a game that had nothing to do with the movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is just like hit pop culture all over the place. Like even to like children's educational shows. Like they put this on. They had things in Sesame Street. They had a show called Between the Lions, where they had like a whole segment called Gawain's World, where it was just like a night, but it was really wacky, and they just kind of this has just been referenced forever, and yeah, it's just like it's still quoted to this day, and it's even been like in Super Bowl ads as like callbacks and things like that, and it's always been in, like, I guess as long as you and I have been alive, for the most part, it's been a big part of pop culture, and it's pretty much here to stay. I would say, before we head out, I just wanted to say that I was watching it this morning, and it was the first time that the missus had ever seen this, and like we both agreed for the most part, this holds up. There's not really anything cringy in it. Like, even there's a point where like there, I mean, I would say the one thing that's like a little cringy is that there's like a part where the like where we're introduced to the executive, and they're telling him about like the and like Benjamin's listing out all of the other programs that are that his friend Russell, that's the guy's name, that he's produced, and he's naming all of these things, and and he's like, oh, did and he's rattling off the shows, and he's like, oh, okay, he's done that one, he's done that one, he's done that one, because Noah Vanderhoff doesn't like the idea until he like starts talking about him as a guest, or telling him about like Russell's accomplishments of being a great producer, and he's listing off all these things, and then he lists like he lists the African American hour or something of that nature, and Noah Vanderhoff is like, oh, I don't know, I have never heard of that, and like Rob Lowe is like, oh, it's on very late with like a smirk, so it's like obviously okay, well, these two guys are like douchebag racists, but then like Russell gets upset about it because he's like, it's won a lot of awards, like he's like, I worked hard on this. Yeah. So it's like his big accomplishment. So I like that part is a little cringy, but also like it kind of still holds up too, because like it's like with the advent of just really internet technology, social media platforms, and people just like, you know, having the courage to actually like speak up for like they're like, it's coming out a lot more often that like executives all over the place for years have just like been super racist. So like that actually even still like is resonating like today, and I think that even is like has become a stronger line over time, where it makes the movie where like it makes you hate the bad guys even more, and it makes things even more relatable to the movie itself.
Yes.
So I think it's kind of interesting how like the movie has really held up well, and I think it's kind of gotten better with over time.
Yes. Yeah, I agree.
I mean, even the poking fun at the corporatism and like just the corporate sellout stuff, it like resonates even stronger today when you listen to any podcast or a YouTube channel or anything like that.
Yeah.
Like, because it's hilarious, because like a lot of times when I hear someone like, a lot of times when I'll hear a podcast just start talking about whatever it was that they were talking about on the subject, and then all of a sudden they start talking about their sponsor, it's freaking hilarious. Like, especially if it's like if it's like a political podcast or like a YouTube channel that's like talking about like, you know, like Down with Capitalism or something like that, and then it's like, oh, here's our sponsor, blah blah blah. It's like, you freaking hypocrite. And it's great. It's so a lot of this movie has not only aged better over time, it's like now even funnier because of because of the age that we're in.
Yes.
So despite their best efforts, they achieved a lot more than they did, and it makes me love this movie and appreciate it even more.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, it's really timeless. It's one of those timeless comedies that it still holds up. So it, you know, and go see it. If you haven't seen Wayne's World, go watch it right now.
You can pretty much catch it on any streaming service. I saw it on HBO Max today, but it's probably on Hulu too. You can probably even watch it on Tubi if you wanted to. It's on everything.
Yeah.
So check it out. And I guess that concludes our episode. We want to thank each and every one of you for coming down and checking out Why Does This Exist. We would like to thank everybody who sent us some weird stuff over the past couple of weeks. It's just been hilarious. You know, just thanks Muhammad, Jared, and all these other guys who send us all these crazy things. We greatly appreciate you, and you know, we think you guys are great. Keep sending us some weird stuff. And everybody who listens to the show, we greatly appreciate you too. And, you know, if you want to head on over to the patreon.com/whydoesthisexist, give us a couple of bucks. That would be absolutely great. And if you're having trouble with it, well, just, you know, let us know through like a Facebook message, or like DM us on like either YouTube, or send us over something, or like let us know at whydoesthisexistshow@gmail.com. Or if you just want to say hello, feel free to send us some stuff or like comment on our things, and just show us support however you can. We appreciate you.
Yes. Thank you very much, everybody.
Yep. That has been Why Does This Exist? I have been Chris.
And I've been Rob.
And remember, question everything.
Good night, everybody. All right.